Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to another episode of the Payoff Pitch Podcast. I am Brandon Brown, flanked by three of the best in the business. We got Jack Ankony, we got Tom Brew, we've got Brady Farkas. These dudes have been teaching people about baseball for a long time between the three of them, and I'm really excited to hear what they have to say. I mean, guys, we're pretty much going to cover it all. Like, do you feel like you're biting off more than you can chew when we're saying, let's just cover the whole damn league? I mean, Tom, this is kind of your brainchild a little bit, right? Are we feeling good about it?
Absolutely. I'm feeling great about it. That was the whole purpose behind doing the three-column thing on fastball this year is that, I'm focusing on the East and Jack's focusing on the Central and Brady's focusing on the West. And anytime anything important comes up with any of the 30 teams, I feel like we can intelligently, talk about it ourselves, but also have a great conversation about it. That's why I'm thrilled that we all get together every week to talk baseball.
Well, let's start right there with you, Tom. Go ahead and lead us off with the Red Sox signing of Garrett Crochet. Fellas, you can join in and chime in on anything you want. But, Tom, floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's been a fair amount of contract extensions being doled out this week around the league, but this one is certainly, I think, the biggest. Is Garrett Crochet is just a stud left-handed pitcher, and the Red Sox are they're that team that's just trying to get back in the mix in the AL East. It's been a little while, and I think for a lot of people they've talked about this being really going on a limb and taking a big chance for the Red Sox. Crochet is a young guy who's had some injury issues in the past, and but I think it's a tremendous move for them to get him while they can, lock him up for 6 years, and just hope for the best health-wise. And he's certainly if you show him the money, he shows you he's an ace. The Red Sox got off to a bit of a ragged start and lost 4 games in a row, and a day after the contract extension was announced, he goes out and throws 8 scoreless innings, only gives up 4 hits and gets a big win for them. So, I mean, I think we certainly can see all the potential in Garrett Crochet there, but risk certainly involved, with so many unknowns with him. I mean, it's the largest contract extension ever given to a starting pitcher with 35 or fewer career starts, and by far. And so there's he's really only had 1 full year as a starter last year with the White Sox, and was able to start all 32 games. But he's impressive. 209 strikeouts last year in just 146 innings. He's a stud, man. And he's and for the Red Sox, who have they need to get over the hump. They need to start contending for AL East crowns again and making playoff runs. And and certainly for their fan base, winning a World Series again is always the goal with the Red Sox. They're they've got I've got a lot of nice young players in that team. They've got a farm system with some more guys ready to explode here in a bit. So I think it's good. You lock up a starting pitcher like that, and then you just obviously hope and pray that he stays healthy.
And how does that bode for the Red Sox big picture? I mean, there's some loaded teams across the league. Obviously, where do the Sox kind of fit in with all that?
Well, I think our first podcast, our colleague Brady here picked him to win the World Series this year. So it's this is certainly a move that's not only made for the future, but it's certainly made for 2025 as well. And they've, like I said earlier, they've just got a lot of talent on this team, and they you got a few things to still straighten out. Rafael Devers, of course, has really struggled out of the gate, at an epic proportion. But I like this Red Sox team. I think they're pretty good, and I don't see a whole lot of weaknesses, up and down that 26-man roster. So I certainly think they'll contend in what should be a very competitive AL East race this year.
Yeah, and I was obviously at the White Sox games this week when the news of the extension broke, and I think some of the reaction was kind of what Tom was talking about, how like, wow, this guy really didn't even pitch a whole lot last year, but if he's able to stay healthy, I mean, he's only 25 years old, and this could look like a great contract, I think, in a few years if he's able to avoid some of those injuries, because when he's healthy, he is one of the best young pitchers in the game. So I thought it was a good signing for the Red Sox too, and one that I think some White Sox fans were sort of like, well, this is a guy that you can sort of build around, as they're doing the rebuild, but obviously it costs a lot, and that's a big factor too.
Whole thing was a home run for the Red Sox. Red Sox have had a home run off season. Part of the reason why I picked them to go to the World Series. I mean, you look at it and say, look, they already had established stars. And when you talk about Devers, they already have an established young piece in Tristan Casas, who I'm a big fan of. Not everybody is, but I am. They have arguably the number one farm system in baseball. They've got Christian Campbell already up, who's had a historic first 7 games to his Red Sox tenure. They've still got Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer set to come up. They didn't give up any of those guys in order to get Crochet. Then they go add Buehler and Bregman. I mean, they've got it at all levels here. They've got depth that they haven't had. They've got star power that they haven't had. They've got prospects that they haven't had. They have overall athleticism, and now they're locking guys up. So kudos to Craig Breslow.
Well, Tom, you mentioned that there's been extensions and signings going on around the league, and sounds like there's some pressure maybe for the Cubs to do so with Kyle Tucker. Jack, thoughts on this and, timeline and, maybe some rumblings and what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, he's off to an incredible start. 4 home runs, 11 RBIs in 9 games so far. And I think a lot of Cubs fans have sort of been longing for that star type of player ever since they traded away that World Series core in 2021. I think Jed Hoyer and the Cubs have done a good job, building, and getting some solid players, guys like Ian Happ, Nico Horner, Seiya Suzuki, but even Steele and Imanaga in the rotation. But they don't have that MVP level type of guy until they traded for Tucker this offseason. And so I do think there's a lot of pressure to get him under a long-term extension. I think from Jed Hoyer's perspective, it's the last year of his contract as the president of baseball operations. And he traded away a guy in Cam Smith who made the Astros opening day roster, which was a lot quicker of a process than I think a lot of people thought. So I think, he's a guy that is going to cost a lot of money. I was reading some projections, maybe in like the 11-year 366 range was a number I saw in one article. So it's going to be expensive, but I think he's the exact type of guy who can hit for average, hit for power, steal bases. He's a Gold Glove defender. That is the perfect type of 5-tool player that you can build around.
What's the holdup? I mean, why not just, why isn't this happened already? I guess would be the question maybe.
Well, I don't think one, it's just because it is going to be very expensive and it's going to be probably the biggest contract that they've ever given out. But I don't think they wanted to just trade for him and then immediately give him a big contract. I think they kind of wanted to see how this season played out in terms of, he was out last year with an injury, and I wouldn't totally be shocked if they did it during the season, but I don't think it was really ever kind of an expectation to get it done before the year. But certainly now that he's playing at a really high level, I think it kind of, it might speed up that process.
Well, we heard a little bit from Brady already, but this is the preeminent expert here on Seattle Mariners baseball. I've already established him as such. So Brady, what's going on with the Mariners? I saw my Detroit Tigers got a little win out west. So I think it's their only win so far. But early impressions on the Mariners so far as they get their season rolling.
Same year, different story. They can't hit. Same year, different story. We just anything I said in 2022, 23, or 24, just play it back right now. We're 7 games into the season. They've got a 172 team batting average. If the Atlanta Braves didn't exist, that would be worst in Major League Baseball. So they're 29th out of 30 in batting average. 7 games played. They've got more than 4 runs exactly one time. At one point, they were 4 for 34 as a team with runners in scoring position. That was through most of Wednesday's game. I believe they dropped 1 or 2 more at-bats after that. So they're teetering on 4 for 40 at this point, runners in scoring position. They do walk a decent amount, so they get some traffic, but frustratingly can't get them on enough, over enough, or in enough. And it's just the same thing we've been watching for years with them. It's frustrating to watch. It's disappointing to watch. They had the funds and resources available to go out and get impact players in the offseason. Ownership chose not to. That's a continuing trend as well. So they're 3-4 heading into Friday's game. They are, I still think, good, but they had a chance to be great, and they're very clearly not that right now.
Well, I wanted to get this. This isn't on anybody's topic list, but I heard it, and you just mentioned it. If it wasn't for the Braves, I don't know who's the expert here. What's going on with the Braves? What's 0-7 with the Braves all about? Like, how is that a thing?
It's interesting because I'll just jump in first real quick on this. One, it's been a tumultuous first week for them, okay? Ronaldo Lopez goes on the injured list, and Jurickson Profar gets suspended 80 games for PEDs. That's never a good thing. You're still without Spencer Strider, who's a Cy Young candidate, and Ronald Acuna Jr., who's an MVP winner. That's also not a good thing. Now, they should not be 0-7, but look, you spend a month and a half in Florida, and then you fly across the country, don't have a home game. You're going from spring training all the way to California to play the Padres and Dodgers, who are two of the best teams in baseball. So I'm not necessarily trying to build in an excuse for them, but it is difficult to not be at home after spring training, go out west 3,000 miles, the furthest trips that you can make almost, and play two of the best teams and have all this other off-field stuff going against you as well. Now, no team's ever made the playoffs after starting 0-7, so it's certainly early, but it would take a historic comeback for them to even make the playoffs at this point. I still think they're good enough to do it, but that's why they're struggling so far.
I'll be the first to admit that having to start, in San Diego and with the Dodgers is a tough start, but still they are not hitting at all. I mean, there was a graphic that popped up on the screen during one of the games a couple nights ago that every player on their lineup was hitting under 200, all 9 of them, and it just, you're not going to score runs when that's the case. And, I'll be the first to admit, I mean, baseball is the ultimate marathon, and nobody can really make accurate judgments after just a week, but that's a hell of a hole they've dug. I mean, they're already, 5.5 games behind the Phillies. They've got an uphill climb, and they obviously certainly have the talent and the wherewithal and guys coming back here at some point, to get hot and make runs during the course of the seasons. But certainly I think this is a team to really watch closely here the rest of April, because they can't dig any deeper of a hole than they've already dug. So, but they get home this weekend now, and hopefully they can start to put some things together. But they've certainly been brutal to watch so far.
Well, yeah, I mean, I also saw that no 0-7 team has ever made the postseason, and it did get a little bit easier with how they've expanded the postseason in that respect. But you can say it's early; it's only April 4th, but they can't dig themselves too big of a hole, especially with what they've already done. But I think they'll, that roster's too good to sink too deep, I think.
Well, Tom, you mentioned a little bit already about the Phillies. They're off to a almost opposite start at 5-1, a 5.5 game cushion on the Braves already. Again, super early, but things have to be feeling pretty good in Philadelphia.
Absolutely. Yeah. Won 2 out of 3 at Washington to start the season. Scored 4 runs in the 10th to win the opener, and then came right back, scored 11 runs the next day. And the thing that was really impressive to me is they come home for opening day on Monday, and they sweep the Colorado Rockies. Now, I know the Rockies are, probably the worst team in the National League, but still, I mean, the Phillies pitching was incredible. I mean, Colorado only scored 1 run all 3 games, in the sweep, and Wheeler was great, and Walker yesterday, who, he's a guy I rag on all the time, doesn't, wonder why he's in the Phillies rotation, but he was tremendous yesterday. So it was a very good sign, for them. That's, a good way to start the week at 5-1. But I think, obviously we're going to learn a whole lot, about the Phillies this weekend, because they host the Dodgers, who are still undefeated and haven't lost a game since last October, and defending champs, starting the way they have is still unbeaten, through Japan, and then the whole week here, 8-0 already. So the Phillies Dodgers series this weekend, certainly a must-see TV for baseball. Looking forward to that, and I think we get a big gauge on the Phillies from this series a little bit, and then of course Phillies at Braves next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in Atlanta too. So looking forward to that as well. And like I said, we're going to learn a lot about the Phillies in the next week.
How much importance do you think you put on a series like that, Tom, this early in the year, going up against the undefeated Dodgers, reigning champs, like you said?
Well, I think it's one of those things. The importance comes in winning some games. I think it would give you a lot of confidence going forward. If they can win this series, if they can win 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers, that would be incredible. And it's one of those things, I think, early April, that if you don't win the series, or even if you get, God forbid, swept, it's you'll see them again, in October more than likely when the time comes. And so I think it's one of those things that if there's good news they can build off it, and if there's bad news that comes out of it, it's baseball, man. And all these guys are used to living and working one day at a time. I don't think it'll drag them down any, but it's certainly a chance to show off a little bit. They've really been playing some good baseball. My boy Kyle Schwarber, my Indiana grad friend from way back when, he's got 4 homers already and really 8 RBIs and off to a hot start. And like I said, that pitching's been great too. So looking forward to that series for sure.
Well, shifting gears just a little bit. Got at least a couple of teams playing in some different venues this year, some strange venues, you just kind of make it work however you can make it work. And Brady, one of those is the Oakland Athletics playing in Sacramento. That just sounds weird saying it. So how weird is that actually?
Well, it's very weird, obviously, and they got pummeled by the Cubs, I think 36-9 at some point was the breakdown here in this series for the Sacramento of Oakland of almost Las Vegas A's. So
there you go.
I mean, look, it's tough. I'm actually surprised, though. The A's have seemed to embrace it from a player's perspective. What will be kind of interesting moving forward is how they continue to embrace it, right? And how the field holds up, right? The field being beaten to death by the A's for 81 games and by the AAA team that shares that field as well. So it's getting double the usage. It's going to be 118 degrees there in August, September. So how are people going to feel about it then? The press box is a shed, not even, I know no one cares about the media, but the press box is a shed. The press conference area is a shed. The players and coaches have to go into a shed to do this stuff. So they sold out the first day, and we're down at 9,000, I think, by game 3. So does the community even really want them there? Are they embracing the community fully? I heard an insider from the Sacramento Bee, I think, say that the A's are not selling any apparel with Sacramento actually on it. So, they're very much treating it as a quick pit stop. So it's an odd situation. They're 0-3 at home. The fans haven't shown up so far. Again, I think that the players are saying the right things and treating it well, but we'll see how that lasts when the field is beat up and it's 118 degrees.
I was trying to search real quick. What's it hold? You said they got down to 9,000. What's the capacity for that bad boy?
14,000 or so. They sold out the first night. I think it was about 14.
Okay, so yeah, that's a little bit rough. That's a little bit rough. Tom, similar situation. Your Rays playing away from home. I think they're playing in a building named after Steinbrenner. Is that correct? That's
exactly.
That's obviously a little bit strange as well.
Yeah, but a little bit different, I think, from the Oakland situation because the A's, they need to play in Sacramento for 3 years. I'm really surprised they didn't do a better job out there of making some improvements to that. Getting like I said, Brady mentioned, the post-game press conferences in a storage shed is a joke. But it's obviously very different with the Rays playing in Tampa. That's their home market. The Tampa, St. Petersburg area of close. We know Tropicana Field, was blown off. The roof got blown off during Hurricane Milton in September. And so, major kudos to Hal Steinbrenner and the Steinbrenner family for, because they are Tampa Bay natives and residents themselves, for reaching out and making sure that the Rays had a place to play this year, staying in town. And obviously the Yankees facility, spring training facility is state of the art. The clubhouse that the Rays used is nicer than their clubhouse at Tropicana Field. And they did an incredible job of rebranding that stadium in 4 days, taking all the Yankee stuff down and putting all Rays stuff up. It looks great. And, and obviously, a lot of the Rays fan base, they all live right there anyway. And quite frankly, even for me, driving to Tampa I went on Tuesday for my first game over there, and it's a quicker ride from northern Pinellas County for me than it was going to St. Pete. And they've it holds just a little under 11,000. They've sold out all 6 games. The atmosphere's been great. Obviously, the Rays got off to a 4-2 start, and they were playing well too. But it was a real nice environment, and but we got a chance to see a little bit about what's to come during the summer because we had a record high here on Wednesday. It was 91 degrees for April 3rd, which doesn't happen very often. and they played a day game against the Pirates, and it was hot. It was really hot. And but they've tried to accommodate that in the schedule as well as they can. The Rays are off to they play the Rangers tonight in Texas, and they were supposed to play the Angels in California after that, but they moved that series back to Tampa, and then they'll go out to California later in the summer. And they did that with the Twins too, and moved the series. So the Rays are playing they're playing 30 something home games in April and May while the weather's still pretty comfortable. So but it's worked out well so far, and hopefully this is just a 1 year thing. The city of St. Petersburg approved the funding to fix the roof the other day, so the Rays are hoping to be back in Tropicana Field for the start of 26. But I think it's going to work out just fine playing in Tampa for one season. It's kind of fun to actually be outdoors.
Yeah, that is hot though. Cooking like an egg out there, sitting in that open stadium. That's something they're not quite used to. And just for a little house cleaning here, Sutter Health Park, home of the A's right now, and the Sacramento River Cats. 10,624 fixed seats, just over 14,000 with with the lawn seats and standing room. So there you go, Brady. You were spot on there with 14,000, but down to 9. I mean, that number is probably going to continue to fall, right? I mean, you'd have to expect that.
I would imagine it's going to continue to fall. Yes. I don't know how far it's going to fall. I mean, it also depends on pricing and stuff like that. I don't have ticket prices in front of me, but the thing about Las Vegas, the thought process in Las Vegas is that Las Vegas is a destination. So not only will you build A's fans there, you will also get opposing fans to come in. And that's not necessarily great for the A's players, but that is maybe good for business in terms of attracting people to your ballpark. It's no knock on Sacramento, but Sacramento is not Las Vegas. So you're not going to have that bump of opposing fans, maybe outside of some novelty stuff. I imagine the Yankees and the Red Sox will do well there. The Cubs, I would have thought would have done really well there, especially on opening week, but it didn't sell out there either. So, I think you'll get a handful of series that it's jam-packed, but if you're relying on a bunch of A's fans to fill the building, I don't think that that's going to be the case because the A's fans in that area are probably frustrated still at the situation in Oakland. And if the A's aren't embracing Sacramento, I don't know that you're creating Sacramento A's fans either. So I don't expect, A's and Marlins on a Tuesday to be drawing particularly well.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be a little bit tricky. Just weird situations, seeing these teams play in these different spots, but you make it work any way you can. Let's swing back up to Chicago. Jack, the White Sox, not expected to be awesome this year, I think is fair to say. Off to a subpar start, but that's the entire AL Central. We'll get into that in just a couple minutes here, but they did kick off the season with a pretty incredible run, something that hasn't been done but just a handful of times in more than 100 years.
Yeah, I think that was sort of the big positive takeaway from the opening 6-game homestand. The starting pitching rotation is not full of star names. Sean Burke, Davis Martin, Jonathan Cannon, Martin Perez, Shane Smith. Those aren't household names in the MLB. It's 4 guys that are sort of just breaking into the league. Shane Smith made his MLB debut. 3 of those other guys I think debuted last year but have pretty limited innings. And Martin Perez, he admitted, I'm past my prime. I'm not throwing 95 like I used to, but I still know how to pitch. And those 5 guys combined for 28 innings to start the year without an earned run to begin the season, which is the 4th longest streak to begin a season since 1913 when they started tracking earned runs. So I thought that was kind of the big positive was that those guys got off to a good start. It didn't necessarily translate to a great record. They start 2-4, had some bullpen issues and a couple games where they just didn't hit. But I think a lot of the season is sort of about developing those younger guys and seeing what you have with some of these guys who are debuting. And Shane Smith I thought was really impressive, and he was actually the guy who ended the streak, but it was because he left some guys on, and then the bullpen gave up some hits and the runs were credited to Smith. But I thought he was really sharp through 5 innings. Sean Burke threw 6 scoreless on opening day. Martin Perez had 6 no-hit innings in his first start. So it was I think a pleasant surprise for White Sox fans to see some of these guys who you weren't really sure what you were getting or didn't have high expectations for going into the season get off to a good start.
Well, you mentioned the 2-4 start. Every team is 2-4 except for the Twins, and they're 2-5. So this division, kind of like last year, jockeying for position. Now nobody probably going to run away with it. Maybe even the bottom feeders might be in it for longer than last year. Even I guess. What's the thought on the division, top to bottom? What's it going to take to win that thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's entirely surprising that the division is off to a slow start. I think when we were on here last week, we were talking about how, there's not really a strong favorite. We might have even all picked different teams to win the division. I don't totally remember, but I think that's sort of how we viewed it going into the year. That really 4 teams I think could win it. I think sort of just a lot of the teams are similar in the respect that you have some stars like Jose Ramirez and Bobby Witt, but you don't really have teams that are super deep. It's pretty top heavy in that respect. I mean, I was talking to some Twins. They were in Chicago, and it just sort of seems like they were off to a really sluggish start, not really ready to get the season going. The Guardians won the division at 92 games last year. I don't know if any team, if I were to guess right now, I don't think any team will get to that mark. It could be a situation where you have, somewhere in the high 80s or mid 80s win a division. I do think the White Sox will, they've looked much more competent than 41 and 121 so far. So maybe, that evens some stuff out too. But I think that, this is sort of what we expected with this division, not a whole lot of, overpowering talent.
Brady, I'll jump to you next. A little bit of a juxtaposition here. How many more wins are the Dodgers going to get than whoever wins the AL Central? That's a pretty interesting question there. No, the discussion early, I mean, we're 6 or 7 games into the season. Obviously, there's so much that could happen. But there is discussion that the Dodgers have built this roster to a point where they're going to break the all-time wins record. I guess how possible is that? You can answer my silly question if you'd like about how much better they're going to be than the winner of the AL Central. But, I mean, the Dodgers just look primed and poised to do something that's never been done before.
Well, look, they're 8-0. They've come back in 6 of those games. They have a roster that's never out of it. They have 4 former MVPs in the organization, and Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, and Kershaw. And Kershaw's not pitching right now. They've got a rotation that is deeper than it was a year ago when they won the World Series, so they can overcome injuries. They've got a bullpen that's better than it was a year ago as well. I think 117 wins is absolutely on the table for them. Now, again, if they've run away with the division and they can afford to give some guys some rest at the end of the year, do they start to peel back a little bit? Maybe. But look, the Padres are 7-0 right now. So the idea that they're going to run away with it right now hasn't happened. And look, I think this is a fair talking point. Mike Cameron, who was part of the 2001 Mariners team that won 116 games, which is the all-time record, he put out on social media yesterday like, whoa, the 2025 Dodgers are doing 2001 Mariners things, but with better talent across the board. So even the guys who currently own the record are wondering if the record is going to fall. Look, the National League, I think, is far better than the American League. The schedule, though, is balanced, which is so it's kind of a juxtaposition. The National League is better, right? So you're going to get the Phillies and Braves. You're going to see them multiple times. But in the back in the day, you'd have to play your division 19 times each. So, if you were in a bad division, you could clean up on it and kind of amass these wins. The National League West appears to be a very good division. So it's going to be hard to dominate your own division, although you play them less, so you get more games against bottom feeders over there. So kind of talking in circles. Yes, I think this is possible. Yes, I would be fearful if I were the 2001 Mariners, and I think Mike Cameron is.
Well, Tom, you've been doing this a long time. I'm just going to ask you, is it going to happen?
I think it is. I mean, when I did my 3 up, 3 down over under totals, on opening day, I took the Dodgers over that 106.5, and I think they're going to do it easy. And we won't talk about my other 5 picks quite yet because my other guys are messing me up. But the Dodgers have been impressive. Like Brady said, they have no weaknesses. Their starting rotation is great. Their bullpen's incredible. They can hit like crazy. And even when they're down, the Braves had them, down 5-3 in the 8th and lost. Sunday night. It's just they're relentless, in what they can do. And I don't see that bullpen like last year. Every once in a while, you could get to their bullpen. I don't think you can do that this year. So I think that's going to be good. But also, I'm looking forward to watching what goes on in the NL West too, because I think the Padres are legitimately good. They're off to a 7-0 start. Heck, even the Giants are 5-1. I mean, we got top 3 teams in a division that are 20-1 so far. That's pretty impressive. And so I'll look forward to Dodgers Giants games and Dodgers Padres games, and I think that will, I think that'll, may certainly make for a fun race. But I mean, I picked the Padres to be a playoff team, and I certainly feel that's still to be the case. And but yeah, I'm looking forward to this Dodgers chase, because I mean, Lord knows when they're going to finally lose. I mean, they've been that good.
I wanted
Yeah,
to.
I'm with
Jack.
you guys. I was gonna agree. I think they'll set it too. I mean, just we talk about all the star power, but even guys like Tommy Edman are off to great starts, and they reinforce the bullpen to the point where they have, 3 or 4 guys that would probably be closing on other teams. So I just think the only thing that's really stopping them is if they pile up an insane amount of injuries. It just seems like you got the MVP talent and you have the depth, you have the starting pitching, the bullpen. There's just no holes on that roster.
Well, I think we did this on last week's episode, or the first episode. Went through and did some prediction stuff and picked who we thought was going to, you guys picked who you thought was going to win the whole thing. And Tom referenced it earlier. I think you said that Brady did not pick the Dodgers. So, Brady, why wouldn't you? I mean, everything that I just heard, it seems like a no-brainer, right?
Well, sometimes you just want to be different. Look, I picked the Braves to get to the World Series because I think that the Braves have a ton of star power. Also, not a lot of holes, although right now they're being proven wrong at the moment. The Jurickson Profar deal is certainly backfired at this point, right? 80-game suspension for PEDs and now ineligible for the playoffs if they get there. So I think the NL is better, as I said. I think the Phillies and Braves are built to beat the Dodgers. I expected the Phillies to have a regression. I thought that better health would help the Braves kind of overtake them. The Mets are obviously built for the long term with their Juan Soto deal. So, look, it's the Dodgers' league to lose, but I was looking for an angle maybe to see if someone could overtake them, and I went with the Braves. And so far, we're 0-7. Maybe this is the time to go and bet money on Atlanta, though. the stock prices are low.
There you go. And I can't remember, Jack, Tom, did you guys pick the Dodgers, or is it going to be somebody else? Like, I guess at this point, it's kind of how Brady just said it. I guess if you could pick what, the Dodgers or the field. I mean, that's kind of how it feels at this point. I don't remember what you guys said, Jack. I think I saw you nodding, so it's the Dodgers for you.
Well, yeah, I picked the Dodgers. I mean, I get what Brady's saying. Like, I think it is a different conversation. Are they going to set the wins record versus are they going to win the World Series? Because, the wins record is obviously over a much longer span of time, and it's kind of about the longevity. And baseball is a sport where we see all the time, the 1 seeds can get knocked out early, and because that's just how baseball goes when you have a 5 or 7 game series. It's easier to, if one team gets hot, or if crazy things can happen in the playoffs, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I still picked them, but I think it wouldn't be the most shocking thing to see a team knock them off, because we see that pretty regularly where top teams can lose in the playoffs.
I think too, one of the things that I wish every playoff series was a 7-game series, and they're not. But
then it becomes the NBA, and it takes 6 months to get.
It's all right. I mean, it's I have no problem with that. It's those are the most important games. I mean, I get the 3-game series, at the beginning, but I still think the NL and AL division series should be 7 games. But because here's what Blake Snell's a great pitcher. He's won 2 Cy Youngs, but every once in a while he just doesn't have it. And he got clobbered around the other night. In a play, what happens if that, in a best of 5 playoff series, if, one of their starters gets roughed up or they don't hit one night, I have more faith and confidence in the Dodgers winning more than 116 games in the regular season than I do winning the World Series, because I think it is a little bit more of a crapshoot when you get into the postseason. Especially like we've talked about for a couple of weeks. There's a lot of really good teams in the National League. Like trying to get to the World Series in the National League is not going to be easy for anyone, including the Dodgers.
All right, put you guys on the spot real quick as we get ready to close this episode out. I'll start with you, Jack. One weekend, 6 or 7 games across the board for each team. The most surprising thing from Major League Baseball so far for you is what?
How about the torpedo bats? I didn't
Okay.
predict going into the season that there would be a new style of bat that players were using. I'll go with that.
I was surprised that wasn't on anybody's list of topics to talk about. Do we want to do a quick rundown? What's going on with these things?
Go ahead, Tom.
No, I just I've had a chance to talk to a few guys about it when I was over there the other day, and certainly it's going to be interesting. But I think just what baseball does is always react to itself. So if they've moved the sweet spot in the bat in a little bit, so guys can hit balls in a little bit better, the pitchers are just going to start throwing away a little bit more. It's just, everybody will adjust. I think I think it's kind of a big thing about nothing. The fact that the Yankees hit 9 home runs that one night was, kind of like made it more of a conversation. But, talking to a handful of players, some of them like it, some of them don't. They just like the old feel too. But certainly it's different. Anytime you have something different, it's good. And, anytime we have more offense in the game too, I think that's always good.
Thing I'm most interested in is what Eric Hosmer, the old Royals first baseman, said the other day. He said eventually baseball players are going to become like golfers, and they're going to have a different bat for different scenarios. And I think that's actually what I'm most interested in, right? Like, okay, this guy throws more in, so we've got the torpedo bat that allows us to get there. This guy throws more away, so now we've got a bat that's more suited to hitting balls on the outside part of the plate. This guy throws more off speed, so we've got an off speed bat. This guy throws with more velocity, so we've got a lighter bat. Eventually, you're going to have a golf club style bat rack. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I think one thing that we'll have to remember about all that too is like there's that great line from Top Gun, man. It's not the plane, it's the pilot. I mean, the Yankees with all their torpedo bats struck out 30 times the next 2 games. So it's you still have to get in the box, and you still have to face a major league pace pitcher with wild stuff, and you still need to make perfect contact to hit the ball hard, whether you got a torpedo bat or a regular bat or a piece of wood out of the shed. You still need, like I said, it's not the plane, it's the pilot. You gotta get in that box and be able to hit the ball hard no matter what you got in your hands. And but certainly it's made for interesting conversation the first week, and more to it. I love that baseball's back, and I love that we have daily drama. And as someone who works from home, I love that we have 6-day games today. I'm all excited about watching baseball all afternoon.
Well, Jack brought up a great topic there. Tom, you got anything else? Something that surprised you so far just a weekend? I mean, how do things look for you across the board?
I'm a little bit surprised that the Toronto Blue Jays are 5-2 and leading the American League East, because I really thought I think the Blue Jays are the only team that's not good in the AL East, and I think they've got lots of issues. But so far, they took advantage of opening at home and went 5-2 at home and did some nice things, and won some games in the clutch. I don't think that will continue, but that's been a nice surprise. And what Jack mentioned too earlier about those first 4 White Sox starters, not giving up a run, after as bad as their pitching was last year, that was a nice bonus as well. So we're off to a good first week, and as we mentioned, there are a lot of really good series this weekend and everything too. So we're off and rolling.
Brady, take us home. Is anything more surprising than your World Series favorite starting 0-7?
No, nothing is more surprising than that. 0-7.
Yeah.
The Marlins have wins. The Rockies have wins. The White Sox won. The White Sox have multiple wins. The Braves have 0.
Yeah.
Nothing is. The Braves are hitting worse than the Mariners. Nothing is more surprising than that. That's it.
That's the perfect way to end the episode. Fellas, thank you so much for the time, and we will be back again next Friday to do it all over again.
See you guys.
Appreciate it, Brandon. Thanks.